What is carbon dioxide?
I went to high school, but that's carbon dioxide is a gas.
Okay.
I'm not a professional to talk about carbon dioxide so much, but
Well, you want us to abolish it, right?
no, there's always going to be carbon dioxide.
Right. So what is it you want us to do?
I
Let me back up because I want to. I mean, you're here as an expert. Tell me more about what carbon dioxide is.
I'm here as an expert cross-country skier who sees the changes in my winters and the landscape that I live in Alaska. And so carbon dioxide is what I see it as is, it's a gas that exists in our atmosphere. And
What is it? The major part of our atmosphere? Or?
it's a huge part of our atmosphere, yes.
It's actually a very small part of our atmosphere.
Senator John Kennedy delivers one of the most methodical destructions of witness credibility ever seen in a congressional hearing as he confronts Olympic cross-country skier Gus Schumacher, who came to testify about climate change but left exposed as completely unprepared for serious policy discussion. Watch as Kennedy systematically dismantles Schumacher's testimony by revealing the witness cannot explain what carbon dioxide is, doesn't know the cost of carbon neutrality, can't estimate temperature reductions from proposed policies, and ultimately refuses to answer questions about his past tweets calling for abolishing the police and making controversial statements about systemic racism and the war on drugs. This isn't typical political theater, this is a masterclass in congressional oversight. Kennedy demonstrates why background research is crucial, why expertise is essential for policy testimony, and why witnesses advocating for trillion-dollar policy changes should be able to answer basic questions about costs, timelines, and expected outcomes. Schumacher's repeated responses of, "I don't know and I'm not here to talk about that," paint a devastating picture of someone who came unprepared to defend either his policy positions or his credibility. Let's dive into the main video.
Mr. Schumacher, welcome. You were, who invited you here today?
I came with Protect Our Winters.
Right. But you're here on behalf of the Democrats or the Republicans?
I'm here on behalf of the outdoor enthusiasts around America.
Okay. You were contacted by Senator Whitehouse's staff?
I personally came with Protect Our Winters, so I don't know how that went exactly.
What is carbon dioxide?
I went to high school, but that's carbon dioxide is a gas.
Okay.
I'm not a professional to talk about carbon dioxide so much, but
Well, you want us to abolish it, right?
no, there's always going to be carbon dioxide.
Right. So what is it you want us to do? Let me back up because I want to. I mean, you're here as an expert. Tell me more about what carbon dioxide is.
I'm here as an expert cross-country skier who sees the changes in my winters and the landscape that I live in Alaska. And so carbon dioxide is what I see it as is, it's a gas that exists in our atmosphere. And
Is it the major part of our atmosphere? Or?
it's a huge part of our atmosphere, yes.
It's actually a very small part of our atmosphere.
Well, okay. But, yeah, I don't know. What are you asking specifically?
Well, you say we need to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. I'd like to know first if you know what it is. You want us to abolish fossil fuels?
I never said that.
You never have said that?
No.
Okay. What do you think we ought to do with fossil fuels?
What will we do with fossil fuels?
Yeah. Should we make any changes?
I would like to see a decrease in the use of fossil fuels. I think there's a possibility to use more electric generation.
Okay. Over what period of time? 10 years, 50 years, 100 years?
That's not, I would like to see it come as fast as possible while continuing.
How fast?
Sorry?
How fast?
I don't have a great
don't
answer
know?
for that, no.
Okay. You just think, well, how much will it cost for us to become carbon neutral in the United States by 2050?
I'm not a professional on that. I don't have an answer.
You don't have any idea?
No.
You just think we ought to spend the money?
I'm not an economist.
Yeah, but it's going to cost money. You realize that?
Yeah, but we've also talked about the the trade-off of what the cost of climate change as emergencies will cost in the future also. So
Right. But it's going to cost trillions of dollars to become carbon neutral by 2050, right?
I do not know.
You don't know. You just think we ought to do it.
I don't have a great answer for you, but I think
Okay.
I would. Like
If
to
we
see
spent, if we spent those trillions of dollars and became carbon neutral by 2050 in the United States, which you advocate, how much will it reduce world temperatures?
I don't have an answer for that.
You don't know?
No.
You just think we ought to spend the money and then see what happens?
I think as an athlete, I think if we spend that money and invest in our future, hopefully those temperatures stop rising and maybe the snow at least stabilizes where it is for me. But yeah, I don't think anyone knows for sure. I don't know anyway.
Well, when my colleagues invite witnesses to come to us to tell us, advise us on passing legislation, I always check out the background of our witnesses because I like to know who I'm talking to. I checked yours out, Mr. Schumacher, and I want to be sure I understand it as I evaluate your testimony. On June 8, 2020, you tweeted, I'm going to quote, "The war on drugs was intentionally created to incarcerate black people en masse," end quote. The war on drugs, you said, was intentionally created to incarcerate black people en masse. Who intentionally created the war on drugs to put black people in jail? Who were you talking
I
about?
don't remember typing that.
You don't?
No.
It's on your Twitter feed.
Maybe a retweet. I don't know. I haven't used that in a while.
Well,
Also,
even
it
if
doesn't
it's a
seem like
retweet, it shows your support, right?
Maybe, yeah. But it's not the topic of this conversation. I think.
Right, but it has to do with, you're here giving us advice, and I just kind of like to know a little bit more about your point
Yeah,
of view.
I'm here as an athlete giving you my story and what I've seen in my field.
On August 27th of 2020, you tweeted this, quote, I'm going to quote, "Police are paid with taxpayer dollars. If they are not answerable to us, we can demand new service, and that's what this is. Abolish the police in favor of that new service," end quote. You think we ought to abolish the police, do you?
Again, not the topic I'm here to talk about today.
I know, but you tweeted it. Do you think we ought to abolish the police?
That's not what I'm here to talk about.
Should we do that before or after we get rid of fossil fuels?
I'm not going to address that. That's,
You don't want to address it? Okay. Let me ask you about one more of your tweets. On August 26, 2020, you tweeted, there's a picture, I'm not going to describe the picture, but you said, quote, your words, not mine, it's on your Twitter feed, quote, "This is what systemic racism looks like. The Los Angeles Police Department is literally policing only the Black Lives Matter side," end quote. What'd you mean by that?
This is still off topic.
No, it's not. You're here as an expert telling us, advising us, and I'm asking you about your background.
I'm here as an athlete to talk about the effects of climate change on my sport.
Okay, let's go back. Well, I'm almost out of time.
Senator John Kennedy's questioning of Olympic skier Gus Schumacher stands as a masterclass in congressional oversight and a perfect example of why rigorous scrutiny of witnesses is absolutely essential. Kennedy didn't just expose gaps in knowledge, he revealed a fundamental problem with how advocacy groups present witnesses to Congress, sending people with compelling personal stories but zero expertise to advise on trillion-dollar policy decisions. Kennedy's approach was methodical and devastating. He started with basic questions that any climate policy advocate should be able to answer. What is carbon dioxide? How much of our atmosphere does it comprise? What will carbon neutrality cost? How much will temperatures decrease if we implement these policies? Schumacher couldn't answer a single one. His repeated admissions of, "I don't know," and "I'm not a professional on that," were damning. If you're not a professional on carbon dioxide, climate economics, or atmospheric science, why are you testifying before Congress about climate policy? Kennedy exposed this absurdity brilliantly. What makes Kennedy's performance even more impressive is his preparation. He didn't just accept Schumacher at face value as a concerned athlete. He researched the witness's background and uncovered tweets advocating for abolishing police, making controversial claims about the war on drugs, and promoting radical political positions. When confronted, Schumacher's refusal to address his own words spoke volumes. His repeated deflections of, "That's not what I'm here to talk about," showed someone trying to hide behind a narrow testimony while advocating for sweeping policy changes. Kennedy's sardonic question, "Should we abolish police before or after we get rid of fossil fuels?" perfectly captured the absurdity of the situation. Here was a witness with radical political views, no policy expertise, no understanding of implementation costs or timelines, and no willingness to defend his own statements, yet he expected Congress to take his testimony seriously on matters affecting the entire economy. The senator's questioning served democracy by demanding accountability and transparency. When witnesses come before Congress, they're not just sharing stories, they're influencing legislation that impacts millions of Americans. Kennedy insisted on standards. If you're going to advocate for policies costing trillions, you need to understand what you're proposing. If you've made controversial public statements, you need to defend them or explain them when questioned.